come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today.
So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready.
Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
Let's indeed. Let's dive in. Hello, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be doing the vlog on the blog with you once again. It's kind of an innovative show that we have designated and have been pretty consistent in delivering it here over these past few months. We take what is a blog, which you could put together through the feed of either Facebook or an X, for example. And we then talk about what issues that these things bring up, because we live in a world where people don't like to read very much anymore, and where the sound bites that are attached to very often thoughtless statements, they actually prompt a discussion which I think is quite interesting, informative, useful, pertinent. And so that's what we use the vlog on the blog for. And we'll just go through a whole host of subjects as they came up in social media feeds, so that we can generate some benefit from what is otherwise a horrible swamp of human expression. The first here is that Katz, defense minister for Israel, says that Israel is militarily ordered, or Israel's military is ordered to prepare independent Iran strike plan, Katz says. Now, dumb. I mean, Israel, how many times do you have to be played before you go, ugh? I mean, you were checkmated. You wanted this war with Iran. You wanted a war with Hezbollah. You wanted to destroy Gaza. You were played into the war of destroying Gaza, to your destruction, to your demise, to suicide, because of what you did. By destroying Gaza, you have been relegated to the scrap heap of nations. And then you lost in Iran in a war that you had a 0% chance of succeeding in. Zero. And you were played to get into that war. I mean, this is what is so stupid about Israel. You were played for that war. They wanted you to attack them. Why did they want you to attack them? Because the regime of Iran was so unpopular, because it was so ineffective economically, and the economy was in such disaster that it would have imploded, because their currency was imploding, because there were no jobs. Ultimately, the whole thing comes crashing down, and it would have happened. But what Iran did is realize that if there's an external boogeyman, that people rally around the government, and they no longer take the time to blame the government. They look at, well, that's the country that's bombing us. That's the real enemy. We will galvanize around our culture, our community, our country to stare them down. And so you solidified Israel, the very thing you claimed to be trying to cause. And you were played into it, and it was stupid. And here you are now, doubling down after you were checkmated. What Iran did in the surrender document of Donald Trump was checkmate you. So that you were isolated from the agreement, you were completely left out, and you are now abandoned. There is no move that you have left. That's what they call checkmate. If you continue to war with everyone, then you are without weapons and without any ally in a world where survival's not possible under those circumstances. And if you don't protect yourself, the 2 billion Muslims who have grown to hate you and the 2 billion Marxists that think you're rubbish will destroy you. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's called checkmate. You have been checkmated. You did this to yourselves. And now
they
you want to
their
go
best shot.
And thumb your nose at the world again? I mean, that's suicide after checkmate. Just admit you lost the game. You have lost the validity of the Jewish state. You did this to yourselves. There is no solution for this. I've warned you about this for going on now 25 years, written 40 books to explain what you were doing and where it was going to lead. And ultimately, I'm going to lay down my life to save you. But that's 7 years from now. And between now and then, you don't have to make the situation worse, which every time you open your mouth.
Yeah, they took their best shot with the help of the United States, both defensively and offensively. They took their best shot in Iran, and they failed. Now, this idea that what do they have to do to Iran that they think that they can, right? I mean, because they're out of interceptors.
What you're doing here is you're getting way beyond the more important reality. The more important reality is they were played into attacking Iran. They wanted regime change. The way to assure that there would be no regime change is to attack Iran. Israel did exactly the wrong thing. Second, Israel chose a partner that their prophets say is Rahab, that he is Satan incarnate, that he is the great betrayer. And so you didn't even bother to consider your own prophets. That's really, really stupid. So stupid one, stupid two. You had no chance in regime change, and you got exactly the opposite result. And number two, you chose to partner with Satan incarnate, Rahab, the great betrayer, who specifically, the prophet says, betrays Israel, and specifically at this time, 7 years before the return. So that's all true. Now, the other thing that's true that you bring up is that you have to be insane when you continue to do the same thing and you expect a different result. Israel has now attacked Iran twice and lost both times. And the loss is catastrophic. This time in particular, the loss is overwhelming and catastrophic. You have galvanized Russia and China against you. You've taken America, which was your only ally, and galvanized America against you. You've turned all of Europe against you. And you strengthened Iran's hands so that it's the hegemon now of the region. And you have proven that you're a patsy that's easily played.
Yeah.
So
the only way out now
everything
is to
that you
clean
try to
house.
do.
They need to
clean
they
house
need to,
with the government. The entire government.
And the Haredi. I mean, I'm talking Hezekiah moment. Now's the time.
I think that there's only one choice with the Haredi. We have a post here, and I'll just go ahead and talk about it because we may not get to it. That Netanyahu is now saying what Israel needs is a consensus government, a united government, and that's not possible in Israel because the liberals, the Marxists and Tel Aviv are way too far out of touch with reality to be able to relate to. And the Haredi are nothing but parasites. And so you're never going to get a consensus government in Israel. It's way too late. And no one would trust Netanyahu in a consensus government anyway, because he's shown to be completely untrustworthy. That's not possible. So you're not going to save Israel by a unity government. You're not going to save Israel by a new government. You've been checkmated. It's time to admit this is where you are, because if you were to admit this is where you are, that you have destroyed the Jewish state, that it cannot stand, it's done. You've done this to yourself. It's over. Checkmate's over. The game's over. There's nothing. There are no more moves left. When you can admit this, Israel, and deal with that reality and return to YAHOWAH, then there's hope for you. And to return to YAHOWAH, you have to disassociate from the Haredi. Now, my suggestion with the Haredi, since the world seems to think there was a genocide in Gaza, even though the population is the same, give the population a little boost in Gaza. Move the Haredi into Gaza. I think it's perfect. I just move the entire Haredi community into Gaza. There you go.
Yeah. It's got a beach.
And they're so convinced that they're saving Israel by their their studies of the Talmud. See how well it works out for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's perfect test.
Put their money where their mouth is. Absolutely.
Put their money where their mouth is. Yep. And I think that the first move I would make. But that says there's no saving Israel at this point. There will be a remnant who will be spared at the end, but that remnant will have no one who is religious, no one who is political, no one who's conspiratorial who can be part of that remnant. And the guy that actually serves in that messianic role, he is not the Messiah, but he serves in the role of saving Israel, is a goy. Read your prophets. Figure out who the Nakar is. I mean, Ruth knew. How come you don't know?
Yeah.
Moshe knew.
Okay.
How come you don't know? Yeshayah knew. Solomon knew. Why don't you know? They all knew. So there you are. Checkmate. This is, you can play this just because of the carnage that is continuing to take place. And this may not even be the worst clip of what's occurring. But this is Russia aflame. I don't know why the language, the alphabet on the top of it, but you can go ahead and play it just because of the degree of the carnage. But Russia is now in a position. This is Ukrainian and European drone strikes again in Russia. Russia's in the position where if they continue to be a target for Ukraine and Europe, and that their role is to absorb punches and have no response, no red line, and just allow Ukraine and Europe to up the ante, then Russia cannot survive that. Putin cannot survive that. So there's only three options at this point. Putin and Russia are destroyed, which was the whole goal of the proxy war against them. Putin and Russia are destroyed. That's option one. I don't think that one's going to happen. Option two is Kiev is destroyed. Literally destroyed. I know it sounds harsh, but literally destroyed. And option three is that Russia attacks Europe. And it can start with conventional weapons that won't end there. Those are the three options. And I'll let you decide which one you think is going to happen. Russia plays patsy and throws up their arm like they're French soldiers, the French, salute. And the country that was willing to sacrifice 25 million Russians to defeat Nazi Germany surrenders when they have more nuclear weapons than the rest of the world and a military that is probably 100-fold the potency of Europe. Well, that's your option if you think that Russia, that's what the neocons thought when they started this 20 years ago, is that Russia would collapse and fold. And that's the appearance right now of Putin and Russia, that they'll allow themselves to be a punching bag. So if you think that's going to happen, you're naive as hell, but that's an option. The second option is that Russia does what it doesn't want to do. It wanted to create a safe haven in the ethnic Russian communities along its border and down in Crimea. That's what it wanted to do. It probably wants to take Odessa back to its highly ethnically Russian and always been a Russian city. But that's all they wanted to do. They've never wanted to take Kiev. They've never wanted the Ukrainians in Western Ukraine. But what they want, and then ultimately to do business with Europe again when this whole thing is over. And for Starmer Macron and Merz to lose the next round of elections, which was all certain, and Starmer's already out. But he doesn't have the wherewithal to wait that game out anymore. That was Putin's strategy. Not going to work. So he can either destroy Kiev so that there is no fight left and there is surrender, because there's no negotiation on this war. or he attacks Europe for making it possible for Ukraine to attack Russia. And those are the only three options. And take your pick. It's going to be one of those three.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen the interview, Scott Ritter, who we kind of watch from time to time here, went to the economic conference in St. Petersburg this year. And he was a speaker on one of the panels, and they were talking about Europe, and he drew an Atticus Finch quote that, whenever there's the rabid dog in the street, you shoot the rabid dog. He said, Europe is the rabid dog. The EU is the rabid dog, and people's mouths just gaped open in Moscow that they, that there was an American that would be saying this, and a Westerner. He said that EU is just going to continue and continue and continue to attack Russia through this proxy. Yeah,
I will say that Scott Ritter, while he says many things that are bright, he says some things that are really dumb. Scott Ritter is not an independent arbitrator anymore. He loves Russia.
Yeah.
He was an American soldier, and he lost his respect for America sometime after I did, when he was a arms inspector in Iraq. And he realized that everything America had said at the highest levels was a lie. There was no weapons of mass destruction. And he also recognized that the whole Iraq war was a lie, that every building that America bombed was abandoned, and that everything that the Iraqis were trying to protect was concealed. He said, so our intelligence community and our propaganda on that war, every bit of it, all the way up to the President of the United States, was a complete lie. And so somewhere along there is when he lost his zeal, even as a soldier for America. He would still consider himself an American, but he knows he can't trust the government. And he's righteous in that regard. He has done something that is natural. If you study the Ukraine war with Russia, and you realize how disingenuous the United States has been, that the United States planned this war going back 20 years ago and did everything. Regime change at gunpoint, with the CIA opposing a new government. 3 years before the war, having two senators, John McCain and Lindsey Graham, on videotape telling the Ukrainians, your war is our war. You go and attack Russians and we'll supply all the weapons that you need and continue to have your back, and go kill some Russians. And we lied about NATO. Russia gave up East Germany and East Berlin to unify Germany under the promise that NATO would never expand closer to its borders, and it's expanded 20 times, all closer to its borders. This was a deliberate proxy war by the United States to weaken and dissect Russia, so that the industrial complex in America, the military industrial complex and bankers and the like, could divvy it up and have access to the resources and control Russia. If you're a moral person and you know that's happening, you're going to be opposed to the United States and their deliberate bit of piracy, knowing that 2 million people have died for your thievery. Lindsey Graham, your soul is going to rot in hell. And you have a tendency to root for the person who has been abused. That's what's happened to the entire world relative to the United States and Israel attacking Iran and Iran's response. That is the Iranian regime is a horrible regime, the way it treats women and its own people. And yet the world is more sympathetic to Iran than it is to either Israel or the United States. And in the case of the very few people that understand the history of the Ukraine propagandist proxy war, you end up in the same place, and that's where Scott Ritter is. So that explains and some of Scott Ritter's mentality. And Scott Ritter is hugely respected in Russia, and he has access to everybody of any position in Russia and talks to them regularly. So he knows what's happening. I think he's a reasonably honest reporter in this regard. But he is no longer an unbiased source. He wants Russia to win, and he wants Russia to smack Europe. And my view is that while it's impossible to be knowledgeable on this situation and not favor Russia over Europe, impossible, and favor Russia over what I think is the most despicable nation in Europe, which is the Ukraine. And what they have done in their pogroms, how they were worse than the Nazis, and how anti-Semitic they are, and how much of a nation of thieves it has been for so very long. Therefore, my job is to tell you what's coming. I've told you there's 3 outcomes, and I can tell you that the first outcome is not going to occur. Russia is not going to put their hands up and surrender. So it means either that what Zelensky has done here and Europe has done is to destroy what's left of Ukraine, because that's how Russia responds, or they bring the war into Europe. They want the war because they're politically unpopular, and wars make politicians popular. So that's they're looking for the war. The same reason that the Iranians wanted the war with the United States and Israel. They want the war. They threw in the Israeli clause because they knew that this would mean constant war, because they fund and they control Hezbollah, and they told Hezbollah, you keep killing, you keep sending the rockets, which means Israel was going to continue to respond, which means United States and Israel would separate and Israel would be completely isolated. But they also knew that with that war, Iranians would rally around them. So this is what Europe is playing by continuing to attack Russia until Russia finally attacks them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 2 and then 3. I think that Kiev, it just gets absolutely flattened, bombed to oblivion, and then they double down and continue on, and Putin decides we have to strike, the manufacturing facilities, whatever that are inside of Europe.
But think of this, and this is Putin's dilemma. Putin has actually been the greatest restraint on world war. If he does to Kiev what Israel did to Gaza, even playing by the rules, he would tell the Ukrainians a week before, get out of there, we're going to destroy the place, which he already did the international community. Russia carpet bombs Ukraine. Russia never returns to the family of nations. Never. So he knows that. I mean, he's in a terrible spot. He knows that if he responds and does what he has to do, that he has isolated Russia so that Russia has to be partners with other nations like China, and puts him in a very vulnerable position with China. And if he attacks Europe, Europe will try to escalate. They have no means to escalate. They have no air defenses. They have no military to speak of. And so, but Europe will try to respond and be aggressive about it. And it will likely have to go to phase 2, which is nuclear. And if it does, we're staring down the throat of World War III, the obliteration of the Northern Hemisphere. So it's a really tough call. I wouldn't want to be Putin in this case. And I would have taken a different stance than he did. I would have much earlier with the red line, say, if you do this, been very clear to everybody, every citizen of Europe. If you do this, if you provide targeting information and Storm Shadow missiles and that sort of thing, manufacture drones and give them to the Ukrainians, continue to fund the Ukrainians' war against us, then we will respond, and this is what we will do. And so push it, you're going to get the response. I would have done that a year ago, but he didn't, and put himself in a very bad situation, put the world in a very bad situation.
Yeah, I don't see a piecemeal nuclear solution whatsoever. Absolutely no one, with everyone having nukes, absolutely no one just, hey, I'm just going to drop one and destroy Kiev with a nuke. That, I mean, once one goes off, everybody's all in, because it's a use it or lose it proposition.
Actually, I think Russia could. I'm not suggesting they should, but I think Russia could destroy Kiev with a nuclear attack without Europe responding with nukes, or definitely the United States is not going to respond. So that is actually possible. I don't think they could respond. I think if they hit Europe with nukes, then you're in a position where Europe has to decide, do we survive or do we take out the world? Because that's the only choice at that point. And at that point, I'm not sure what they would do. Would they choose survival or destruction of the world? But that would be their call.
Yeah.
And they would have brought that choice on themselves.
A European civilian population would take it on the chin and survive. I don't know about their leadership. An American
when you listen to Ursula
and leadership would be all in.
Yeah. When you listen to Ursula, you listen to Merz, you listen to Macron, you listen to Starmer. I would agree with Scott Ritter. It's a rabid dog.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree. I think that's what it is. It's a rabid dog. If you deal with the people, I think, unfortunately, the younger generations have become quite Marxist, quite unaware of reality. I am not sure they would make an intelligent decision, but I do know that universally they are overwhelmingly anti-war with Russia. They do not want to do this. They want to do business with Russia and go back to cheap energy and build their economies, which are falling apart. But anyway, it's a very interesting situation. We have reported for the last month that these are the three options. And we had Russia warn all foreigners to get out of Kiev, which is part of international law. You have to give, I don't know if it's 1 week or 1 month, but it's been about a month since that time. There's going to be one of those three outcomes.
Yeah. I don't see a good solution. I don't see a happy ending anywhere.
No, that's why I've been reporting on the background of this proxy war for 20 years. When the International Monetary Fund tried to intervene back in the days I was doing Shattering Myths, the syndicated radio show, I explained what their motivation was, what it would lead to, why it was a horrible decision, and that ultimately we would go from losing a couple of billions to $100 billions a year. And this was all for control over Ukraine. And that was a tragic mistake. So I've been covering this for 20 years. I remember about 7 or 8 years ago, after having been outspoken on this proxy war being deployed by the United States and then lied by the CIA and the media and everybody else, so that 80% of Americans think that Russia is the aggressor when it's the United States. And just lamenting as to how easy it is to fool people that claim to be educated. 80% of Americans think that Russia is the aggressor when it's the United States, and the evidence is overwhelming. And so you wonder, why are people so stupid? And it was a similar situation with Iran, where all the talking heads, including your pal Scott Ritter, said that Iran was not making a nuclear bomb, that their enrichment of uranium was for civilian purposes, and that's not true. You don't enrich uranium above 5% for civilian purposes. So no, they were putting themselves in a position where they could make a bomb, and that's the only reason they were doing it. And you have to start by telling the truth. That is the reason they were doing it. Whether they're going to finish the bomb or just have themselves in a position where within a week's time they could have as many bombs as they wanted, that's a different story. But they were refining the uranium for a bomb. Yeah. Period. End of conversation. There's nothing else. And you're just stunned that people who claim to be smart could make such stupid decisions. But we've been on these issues now for over a decade, in some cases 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
And it's astonishing that so many people are so easily deceived. Well, I think part of it is what we're going to hear in this. This woman is an absolute idiot. She will begin by saying that math is rational. No, math's not a source of reason or rational. It's a closed system. It's a tool, but its purpose is not to be rational. As a matter of fact, when you get into math, one of the things you learn is there are irrational numbers, and that calculus, which is the level of math that is really required to accomplish anything significant as a mathematician, is the math of Beth guesses. So it's not an exact anything. So no, that isn't who you are. If that's how you define yourself, you don't know what you're doing if you define yourself. Then she will, and we'll listen to her. She defines God under religious terms, and then she says that kind of God would do this kind of thing. So she is dictating her view of what God had to be. And then she's saying, but there's this other thing. So that God cannot exist. So now I'm not religious anymore. We're going to listen to it, and I'm going to respond to it. But I want to tell you that when we have a culture that not only is this stupid, this irrational, this inability, to have this degree of an inability to think, and you're still promoting irrational concepts like this, and not just doing it, not just believing them, but out there promoting them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the Institute of Art and Ideas, and she is out promoting her ignorance, and people believe it.
Yeah.
What a shame. So go ahead and play what she had to say.
Logical reasoning, the kind of reasoning that we use in mathematics, I think has a lot to be said for it. It's objective, it's truth conducive, it's universal, but it doesn't get us very far. And I'll give an example of why this is in a moment. I grew up very religious, and at a certain point, I was presented with what's known as the problem of evil. And the problem of evil is just the point that the following 3 claims are inconsistent. Claim 1, there's an all-powerful, all-knowing, benevolent God. Claim 2, an all-powerful, all-knowing God would prevent extraordinary amounts of suffering. Claim 3, there are extraordinary amounts of suffering. You can't believe all 3 things at once, and logic tells you that. So when I was struck by this and some related problems, I ended up abandoning my religious beliefs. I stopped believing in God. My brother, equally logical, equally reasonable, equally aware of the inconsistency here, remained religious, and instead gave up one of the other propositions. He gave up the belief that an all-powerful God would prevent suffering. Okay? So you might think, okay, I resisted the crowd because I kind of left the belief system I grew up with. He stayed within it and rationalized it. But from a logical perspective, it's perfectly symmetric. All logic can ever do, really, is point to an inconsistency in our belief system. And then what we do with that inconsistency is very much going to be up to us.
Okay. You know, when I say that there is no hope for Gen Z and the millennials are as every bit as dumbed down, this is the consequence of that. They really do not understand the rules of logic. They don't understand rhetoric. They don't understand logic. They don't understand the purpose of it. And to begin, mathematics is not an expression of reason. It's a closed system. There are defined axioms within that closed system. Math can be actually used to reason. It can be used as a tool to reason, the exact opposite of what she said. And the reason it can be used as a tool to reason is that when I was in college, there were courses that I absolutely loved. Probability and statistical analysis. And what you do with probability and statistical analysis is you look at a series of events and you deduce, is there a common denominator here? And what is the highest likelihood of getting from here to there? What is the best explanation to get here from there? And so you're using probability and you're using statistical analysis. I do it every day. That's my filters. I hear news stories. I will apply that approach. And it's a very mathematical approach to thinking. So math is actually a tool to do the very thing she says it won't do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The second, God is not omniscient. He's not all omnipresent. He is not even all powerful. He cannot be infinitely powerful, infinitely knowing, or all present. He would cease to be anything if he were. He would be the table.
Finite.
He'd be me. He'd be you. He'd be everything. He'd be dumb as her, if that were the case. No. In fact, God actually says the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
There are many things that he does not know. And he actually describes it with purpose when there is something that is occurring that has been brought to his attention, where he says, I sought to know whether or not that were true, which is an absolute admission that he is not all-knowing. And the very means of our reconciliation into a relationship with him requires the events of matzah, where what we have done that is inappropriate, particularly religiously and politically, is taken away and deposited in Sheol, never to be seen again, which means these are all things that he has chosen never to know.
Mm-hmm.
If God knew all things, he would have committed suicide. All right? He would have committed suicide. It's too painful. Humans are just revolting. Listen to this and listen to all the other numbskulls like this.
Mm-hmm.
God to commit suicide. It's so no. He is not all knowing. He is not all present, because that would be make him so common. He would be the universe, and he is not all powerful. There is no such thing as all powerful. Even not only is he not all powerful, there is no such thing as all powerful. God is a 7-dimensional construct. We know this because the universe with dark energy and dark matter, which we just call these names because we don't know what they are, and with time, these are all dimensions, and they're dimensions beyond the 3 that we operate within and that we perceive. To have created a 6-dimensional universe, he has to be 7-dimensional. Mm-hmm. A 6-dimensional or 7-dimensional being cannot enter a 6-dimensional, much less our 3-dimensional world. It's impossible. So God cannot be here. Possible. And God's very clear. He says, I am not here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there. He's in the 7th dimension. He makes it exceedingly clear that he is not here. Can he occasionally project either his nephesh via an avatar, or his set-apart spirit, his Ruach Kodesh, and use words or energy to project some aspect of his nature in our world? Yes. But can all of God enter our world? Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So he is, and he makes it very clear, he is not here, he's there. In fact, he says, listen, I'm going back to Shamayim, to heaven, and I'm going to hang here until you all decide that you're going to return to me, and then I'll return to you. But between now and then, I'm checking out. Just enough of this already. I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
So the preface of it is completely wrong. She has described a religious God that was created by men who were as thoughtful as she is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Second point. That a all-powerful, all-knowing, benevolent deity. Now, by the way, why did they? What is the reason that they would project any one of those attributes on? Is it her job to define who God is?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. God actually says he hates. He says he hates more often than he loves. He says he's angry,
regrets,
disappointed, regrets humankind. And making this, I can see why he'd regret that. I mean, somebody that's spitting in his face, that is created a hypothetical that is grossly inaccurate of him, and claims that she can do away with God because of her stupidity. And that would be exceedingly frustrating. Righteous indignation would boil over at this kind of thing. But let's just, beyond her errant depiction of God. All right, we'd all say that having a child, a miscarriage for a woman, what a tragedy for that unborn child and for the woman. You got to stop that, right? If you're going to be a benevolent God that's in charge of everything, you're going to stop that, right? There'd be no miscarriages. There would be none, and there'd be no infant mortality, none. But what about the 2-year-old that dies? Well, that, of course, that's not fair. So you can't allow the 2-year-old to die. What about 20-year-old? What about a 20-year-old that's doing drugs and is so stoned out of their mind they step out in front of a truck? You're going to say, nope, you can't do the drugs so that you won't put yourself in that position. I'm going to preclude you from being able to drink or do drugs. Or what about the 200-year-old? Because, we're not going to have any pain and suffering. So why would it be fair to end the life of a 200-year-old? Why would I ever have a cold? Why would I ever snuffle? Why would my eyes need glasses? Why aren't I 6'6" and chiseled and being able to beat anybody at any sport? Well, I couldn't beat anybody at any sport, even if I were a perfect specimen, because they'd all be perfect specimens too. Why do I have dark brown hair when that other people prefer blondes? Well, that's not fair, right?
She doesn't understand the garden.
Yeah,
she doesn't understand the garden.
Well, what are your conditions for imposing no pain in a world? Where do you go? Because the moment you start down that path, there is no end to that path, and the only way that you can get to that path is for everything to be perfect, which require everything to be the same. Which, if you ever seen the Twilight Zone episode on the fellow that went to hell and everything, every day is sunshine. His wife loves him, his kids love him, his dog loves him, and he wins the lottery every day. And after a while, he goes from, oh my, this is really this is not any fun anymore. This is really miserable. And he says, why do you think you're in heaven? You're in hell. God would have to be wholly and completely controlling every aspect of everyone's life, every nuance, every thought, every action, everything they ate, everything they said, everything they did. Everything that happens around the world would have to be micromanaged by God. He'd have to be everywhere, doing everything such that we had no responsibility or ability to do anything. That's what you would have to do to have that scenario.
It's not even possible because the scale continues to move. Okay. We are never satisfied. We are always growing. So anything that we perceive as suffering now, we take that away. Then the next thing that comes along is perceived as suffering.
Little dum-dum here. She created a God and the image, in a certain image. She created the scenario in her image. So, she is the arbitrator of satisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she is not smart enough to realize that 99.9% of the suffering in this world is because of humans. The amount of suffering by comparison, the rest of the animal world is nil by comparison to what we do.
Yes.
We make the stupid decisions that cause pandemics. We make the stupid conditions in religion that cause wars. And probably a Marxist. The politics of Marxism, 200 million people have been killed by that ism. It had nothing to do with God.
And they suffered.
And there's human suffering is mostly because we can't get along with one another. So she's wrong on all 3 points and doesn't understand logic.
Right.
And yet she will promote this. And for her view, God equals religion. No God, no religion, when exactly the opposite is true even there. God hates religion. So she's not being reasonable. She's not educated. She's being completely irrational. And it's the dumbest argument ever. And I hear the argument all the time. It's just that you just scratch your head and shake your head and say, obviously the neshama, this ability to think, be judgmental, is not functional in most people. And in the latest generations, it has gone completely haywire.
You know, I just had a thought that it's probably the world's oldest conspiracy. If you can't blame the Jews, blame God.
Yeah, people do all the time. Yeah, people do all the time. It's one of the reasons why God has said, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
When you decided to return to me, I'll return to you. And if you don't, then you don't, and I will never return. I mean, that's the reason the job that I was given now and at many other times is so difficult is that if I didn't do this job, he would never return. That's how far away he is. You know, I don't care what people have to say about me, but the fact of the matter is, if I didn't do this job, God wouldn't return. He's that disgusted with humanity. And when we finally prevail and we get enough quality people to return to him, he's going to clean house on the earth, and he's going to remove the likes of this woman and her brother, who is religious, and everyone who is overtly political and conspiratorial. They're all going to be thrown out like the trash. Now, they won't think that's very fair of their imaginary God either.
Right.
Guess what? Guess what you can't have? You can't hate a God that doesn't exist. You have said that he doesn't exist. So when he destroys the likes of you and disposes of your soul, what complaint do you have because you said he didn't exist? So if he doesn't exist, he can't have any effect. It must be your doing.
Yeah.
So it's really quite the conundrum for you, young lady.
Hopefully she can at least get nothingness. And her God doesn't exist.
Yeah,
idea.
I don't think so, because she's too full of herself in promoting what she's saying. So she's crossed the line between victim and victimizing.
Yeah.
I found 3 posts. This is obviously a little bit younger Jordan Peterson. He's lost it. I mean, he's literally lost his mind. Everything that he is pronouncing is either a word salad or completely untrue. He is now claiming here, because he went from a psychologist, which of course is the pretense of science, and it really is. It's the pretense of it. And he calls himself a doctor, but it's a doctor of a pseudoscience. And in fact, I think it's probably a counterproductive discipline, and that they come to all manner of conclusions without proving anything, and end up with nothing but labels, but no evidence behind those labels. It's a tragic human undertaking. And the worst part of it is that they don't cure anybody. In fact, it's not even in their interest to cure anyone. And it's an industry now that's gone to better life with chemistry, and there's no validity to any of the chemistry. It's a tragic thing that he is involved in today in psychology and psychiatry. And they're doing exactly the wrong thing. I hinted at this yesterday. They primarily treat depression because people's lives are unfulfilling. They don't know who they are, why they're here, who God is, what he's offering, what he's wants in return. And they're misled either by politics or religion or the internet or social media or whatever it is. Their lives are unfulfilling. There's no purpose to them anymore. And so psychiatrists treat depression by having the patient talk about themselves and to talk about these things, to talk them out.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly the wrong approach. Exactly the wrong approach. You want to solve depression? Get out of yourself. Stop talking about yourself. Stop focusing on yourself. Make a contribution. Get out of yourself. Start helping somebody else, and your depression will go away. Continue to focus on yourself, or they'll drug you into oblivion, bleed you dry, and pull every dollar out of your wallet. Now, in this particular rant, what he is saying is that religion is serious because it's a phenomenon, because it's a presence. Now, if you look at time, throughout the last 6,000 years recorded history, religion has been the dominant force. Religion is what is used to glue empires together and to cement the authority of the leaders of those empires and control the people, and then cause them to march off into war and harm other people. It's always this blend of religion and politics. It was true all the way back and Sumer and First Babylon, Second Babylon, Assyria, the Egyptians, Carthaginians, especially the Greeks and the Romans, the Persians, all of them, same thing, intermixed. Religion and politics go off and plunder the world. That's what religion does. So if you say because that's a phenomenon that is consistent with man, then religion is important and good, I would disagree. I would say that religion is the cause of death, that it is a phenomenon that we should oppose as opposed to we should triumph.
Mm-hmm.
And what he never says is that religion is valid because it's true.
Right.
Doesn't say that, because he doesn't live in a world where true matters. He doesn't say that religion is true because it's an accurate depiction of God. In fact, in his scenario, God doesn't matter. And clearly, logic doesn't matter. You can play the clip.
When I look at the stories in the Bible, I would say, in some sense, with a beginner's mind. It's a mystery, this book, how the hell it was made, why we preserved it, how it happened to motivate an entire culture for 2,000 years and to transform the world. Like, what's going on? How did that happen? It's by no means obvious. And one of the things that bothers me about casual critics of religion is that they don't take the phenomena seriously, and it's a serious phenomenon.
The critics of religion don't take the phenomenon seriously. Likewise, I held up too. He uses the term Bible, not to speak of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, which his religion opposes, or steals. But to speak of 2,000 years, that would be the New Testament, which is invalid factually, invalid historically. There was no Jesus. Paul lied in 52 CE when he invented Jesus. And the religion transformed the world because it was inculcated into imperial Rome, which was the beast of the world. Now, if that's a phenomenon that we should take seriously, then I would say we should seriously oppose it. And then we should be a critic of religion as opposed to a proponent of religion. But you notice, truth didn't matter. Anything that came before his religion didn't matter.
Because of the idea that it did so much good for the world?
Well, he said it transformed the world. You don't even go to say that it did good for the world, because it depends on whose world you were in. I mean, if you were a Jew, Christianity was the worst thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
It is the source of anti-Semitism. That's quite a phenomenon, but it is the primary source of anti-Semitism in the world. It is the most egregious lie in the history of mankind. There has never been a lie that has been as devastating or as popular as Christianity. But the entire thing is based on identity theft. sad.
Yeah.
Again, people just can't think. He wants to present himself as a thinker, and yet he's a nincompoop. And he's a popular nincompoop.
Do you you want to do the talkies, or do you want to do a couple more of these?
Let's go do
What do you
one
think?
more these,
Okay.
then we'll go and we'll do the talking books. This is a very, very well done AI. I don't think this is a real person. I think it is an AI. But it's one that I see very often. I think it's very, very well done, and very often thought provoking. There are two Asian AIs like this that I see quite often. What he is saying is that because of the fact that the dollar has lost its even basis for being, and that there are so many economic balloons. Any one of those balloons pops, it brings down the whole economy. AI is clearly a balloon. It's filled with hot air. The only thing that's propping up the AI, which is the driver of the stock market right now, is hot air. That's it. He's talking about a real estate bubble right now, particularly on the commercial side, devastating. And even on homes, on places like Florida where they can't get insurance anymore and they can't get loans. Devastating. And there are other factors as well, and he lists a number of them. And he says, so it means economic collapse and a major stock market crash. And he was asked, when? And he says, I don't think we'll make it out of this year. Now, as I'm looking at this, and I'm not an economist. I know a lot about world economies and the American economy and business, but it is something that I examined because I was in it for so many years at a very high level, and because I'm curious about it and study it from that point of view, and because my job is to explain and foresee the future as delivered by the prophets and interpreted. And so I can tell you that within 3 years, we're going to have economic collapse. Will it happen this year? Chances are you're going to have everything that can create the appearance of economic stimulus between now and the midterms, because that's what presidents do. They stimulate the economy. Now, could it crash immediately thereafter in November? It's always a possibility, but that's a lot to ask for, to expect. So I don't think it's likely this year. I think it is quite possibly, maybe even likely next year, and almost certain within 3 years. Mm-hmm. And that collapse can be soft or hard. It could be just the constant degradation of the currency, such that since there is no one to buy bonds anymore, and the petro system has collapsed, the petrodollar, and the reserve currency situation has been so undermined by America, that the only way to create the illusion of being not bankrupt, of being solvent, is to inflate the monetary supply. And when you inflate the monetary supply, what you have is what's happened in the United States since the mid-1950s to today. The value of the dollar has fallen by 98%. Mm-hmm. And so you just continue to erode the value of the currency, which erodes everybody's savings. So you pay for the debt by the erosion of your currency. A friend of mine went to the market today, bought three things, one of which was milk and just basics, and it was $100. It's become prohibitive just to feed your family. And so this is the soft landing, is that you continue to erode the currency, which happened in Britain It's what happened in Germany. It's what happened in Rome. It's happened many times before. The other is you just go to a flat-on default, and that's catastrophic when you do a default, and it's not likely in the ego of Americans or any of their presidents to announce a default, because that would mean failed under my watch. And the third is a reset. You go to gold, you go to Bitcoin, you go to a new currency that's an imagined currency, and you go from having assets to having no assets, but also having no loans that need to be paid back. And you sign up for the new currency, and they have total control over you. Reset. One of those three things will happen. I think the likelihood is the third.
I would agree. I see a reset. I don't know what the prime driver of it is, but there has to be a crisis.
Gold will be the fundamental underlying thing of it. The Bitcoin thing is not materializing the way they anticipated. So as much as the Trumpster and the like want it to be Bitcoin, or some form of that kind of imaginary value, which actually has no intrinsic value. The world is pretty much locked into gold at this point, and so the dollar will be devalued against gold, and then the dollar itself, once it gets devalued, which is the same thing as to say that it's been inflated. Inflated and devalued happen to be the same concept, but they'll replace it with something else, so you won't be aware that you've just spent $10 or $20 or $30 for a gallon of milk. It will be sneakier because they'll have a new currency that's an electronic currency, but that kind of reset. It's easier to pull it off during a time of war. So you can expect war. To impose that in a way that no one will question it, everybody will sign up and go. It has to either be during a pandemic of some sort or worldwide crisis where there's a boogeyman out there. And the easiest for any politician is war.
I agree with the boogeyman side of things. What I have a tough time wrapping my head around, at least looking into the future, is enough people getting behind it because there is enough discomfort in their lives, because all of us have a different level of discomfort of what I'm losing, whether it be my house, my health care, whatever these things that are important to us, that gives us that angst that we're going to be okay to move, because we don't move until we're not comfortable.
It's not not a concern, my friend. Not a concern. It will be universal, and it will be essentially instant. And the reason it'll be universal and instant is that your currency, your savings, will be zero. They're zeroed out. They're either replaced by the new currency with your allegiance to it, or you have no ability to buy and sell anything. And at this point with AI, they can confiscate anything of yours and will. You either go along or everything you have will be taken. And it is, FDR pulled this trick when he wanted to cover the deficit spending for World War II. And when he wanted to blame the Great Depression on other than himself and his predecessors. So they say, you've got to give up your gold, but it's a patriotic duty. It's a patriotic honor for you to do so. And we're going to pay you fair market price. Well, the fair market price is the U.S. standard price. And the moment the U.S. buys it, the price of gold goes way up. But if you didn't play, you don't now get to sell it at that original price. They just confiscate it from you and you go to jail. No, it's they will take your freedoms away. They will send you to jail. They will, your car and truck won't drive. You won't have any electricity. They'll shut it all down. No, they're in a position with AI now and technology to play very mean. And they'll have zero problem with compliance. Even with the faux threat of COVID-19, almost everybody willingly gave up their livelihoods and their freedom to a hoax. It's not that COVID was a complete hoax. It just means that COVID had about the same mortality as a bad year of the flu. And yet people gave up everything based on a lie that somehow giving up their livelihood and their freedom was going to restrict this virus. And it didn't. But people almost universally did. And this will be far more compelling. Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you, pal, but nothing. And you won't be able to buy seeds to plant. You'll have no electricity. You will have no fuel for your car or truck. Won't be able to buy food. I mean, you can say, "Oh, I got chickens," but after you've eaten the last chicken or the last egg, that's going to be it. No, they'll. Yeah. I think we're out of here before we're put in that position. I think that's part of God's plan. But that's what's going to happen. And no, those who are left are going to have no choice.
Interesting concept. Because I see this slow downward spiral. I mean, I always had this expectation that there would be that spark, that thing, and it would just take off, and things would happen faster and faster and faster and faster. And then you can look back and say, oh, wow, that's how we got to where we are. And then as I'm living in this time of troubles and before, I'm on this constant edge of where's that spark? Where's that spark? And there's nothing. There's nothing.
You're just missing it because you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
You're in and if you look at the drain, if there's the swirl, the whirlpool of a drain that's going down, that's where you are. You're in the midst of it,
right? And
it is happening at a pace that no one even thought possible. But it's like boiling the frog and water. Is that the frog never knows that it reaches the boiling point until they're dead. And the temperature ramps up and it kills them. And that is where we are in the time of trouble. This is why Israel is trying to commit suicide, even though it has already endured checkmate and just doesn't know it, how the combination of October 7th and Gaza and Lebanon and Iran and then Iran again and the betrayal by Trump and the Marxists and the Christians and everybody worldwide, all of these things collapsing on them at the same time. They're the stewed frog and it's being boiled. So it's already a death spiral. Flying airplanes, there are certain airplanes we don't get to stall. Most airplanes, trainer airplanes, you stall to learn how to recover from a stall. But once you get high performance airplanes like the economies we're dealing with now, you don't ever stall them. And the reason you don't stall them is there's no way to recover from a stall. A T-tail airplane, for example, you cannot recover from a stall. You'll go into a knife edge spin and you end up in a death spiral and you don't come out of it. So that's where we are. That's where the world is. The points of ignition along the way will continue. I mean, Trump every day is a tinderbox of ignition.
Mm-hmm.
The war with Russia now only having three options. There's a source of ignition. The war with Iran is not over.
Mm-hmm.
That's a source of ignition. The dollar is crumbling. That's a source of ignition.
Mm-hmm. I definitely see the Strait of Hormuz being a bigger issue in 3 months, 4 months than we realize it is now. I mean, without market manipulation, of course, because that amount of oil has to be made up from somewhere, and so using strategic reserves and those run out. The
strategic reserves are gone, are already gone.
Right.
And the shell game of criminal shorts with insider knowledge that's been played to the hilt. Mm-hmm. We won the war and the war is over and the strait's opening has been echoed so many times that even the dumbest investors can't believe it anymore.
Right.
No, it's a cooked goose. And the bigger problem was the silent killer. no fertilizer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes.
No fertilizer, no crops today, no food. And you look at transportation costs. The reason that milk was $10 for a gallon of milk isn't not the farmer made any more money, the cost of transporting it.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's already done its damage, and there is no recovering from the damage that it has done, and there's no recovering from the war. So the damage is ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, America survives on the petrodollar so that it can spend more than it earns. And now that the petrodollar is done, there's no more, that game is going to collapse. So the signs are all around you. The ignition points are all around you. It's like you're surrounded by the fire, and there's so many flames and so many fires all around that you're saying, well, I'm in a world ablaze. Where's the big fire?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing.
It's 1,000 points of death. It's
right.
Death is because we've had 3 generations dumbed down so they can't think. And irrational people are very easy to mislead. We've had the rise of Marxism when it's a delusional and deadly destructive doctrine, and yet it is pervasive in young people today. We've had a rise in Islam as the most destructive and deadliest religion ever conceived by humankind. We've seen an ongoing ability for Christians to promote the biggest hoax in world history, and a religion that has caused the most anti-Semitism in world history. We've seen the world's leading economies weaponize their currency and act belligerently and destroy the very underpinning of their reality, leading to anarchy. We've seen the world arm itself for world war and push itself into the precipice of world war. We've seen us pollute this planet to the point that it's reached a tipping point. We've seen conspiracy grow now where it's the majority of people believe it. We've seen an entity grow called social media that has polluted every nuance of this planet. We've invented a technology that has destroyed people's ability to think and is blurring the lines of reality called AI. That if given enough time, it would be the end of humanity, just it. We've discovered that generations have foregone reading and they have no attention span. So there's no way to reason with them, no way to educate them. How many more ways do you want to die? You've ever seen the program that's on cable TV called 1,000 Ways to Die?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you would like it. You'd like it. I watch it from time to time. 1,000 Ways to Die. Well, that's where we're in. So you're looking for the way when there are 1,000 ways.
Right. Yeah, I just would have expected it to happen, but you know what I mean? It's like how much, because it's coming, that it's you're at the end of the tunnel, you see the light at the other end of the tunnel, right? And the train is barely, and you're like just waiting for it to.
You're not waiting for it to happen. It has happened. It's past tense. All of these things are in place. Every one of them. Israel has been completely rejected by the world. Israel has committed suicide. It's in checkmate. It has all happened. You're watching the implosion of the world. It's all happened, and it's irreversible. Every bit of it's irreversible.
Oh, I agree. I agree that it's the tailspin. There is no pulling out of it.
There is no pulling out. It's you're watching the demise of the world over the next 7 years, and by the time we get to the end of it, the only question I've always had is how in the world do you slow the process down enough to get the world 7 years? How in the world does Trump survive for 7 years?
Yeah.
How does is America even a factor in the world 7 years from now? How are you going to have a nuclear war? The superpowers are trashed. I mean, how can Iran still be marshaling millions of militants into Israel?
Yeah.
I've looked at it exactly the opposite, the way you see it. I've continued to wonder, how is it possible that we survive another 7 years? And we do. Not much, not many, but some do.
Yeah.
Why don't you let's go to?
I'm waiting for the.
I'm sorry.
To hit the ground and the mushroom cloud. You know, I'm tired of it.
Those are going to happen too, but that won't be the end of the world. It's just one more ignition point in the folly.
I think resetting the money supply is one of the first steps, and it's going to be like you said, like COVID, and it's going to happen very quickly.
Yeah, I don't think the resetting the money supply is a first step. I think it's could happen anytime in that process. Anytime over the next 7 years, it could happen. It gives the powers that be so much control. So we're going to what we're in is a situation where everything that is propping up the world is collapsing simultaneously. And so it is very much like the frog and the bucket of water that's being brought to a boil. It's all happening around them. It's
getting pretty warm.
Yeah, there's 1,000 fires. All right, so we now have a capacity at YADAYAH.com where we have talking books. We've had for some time, because I've got 35 books there, about ready to publish another 3. We're about ready to, and they're all free, by the way, and they're all free in these page turner formats. They're all free, and PDFs, they're all free, not free, but they're all available at royalty free at Amazon. So just the printing cost and the shipping cost is what Amazon will charge. And so we lead with that on our website, these soon to be 38 books. But we have wanted to make the books even more interactive. And the page turner is already pretty interactive. You click the next page, it goes back, it goes forward, all that sort of thing. So you can go back and forth. But the new thing that we've added, if you see the speaker and the go arrow, the play arrow there, is now the books talk, and they talk to you. And so if he clicks that arrow, we'll listen.
Chapter 4, Towrah, curse. Plagued by whom? In time, we will analyze every word of Galatians, from Shaul's greeting to his handwritten closing statement. But for now, I would like to commence our review of Christendom's foundational treatise at the same place Christians begin their assault on the Torah, and that occurs in Galatians 3, verses 10 through 14. We will begin with the King James Version and the New Living Translation. Their depictions of these passages, juxtaposed against a literal rendering of the earliest manuscript of Shaul's letter, should suffice as evidence. Reason dictates that if the following KJV and NLT translations are accurate, and the inspiration behind them is valid, then the Torah is God's way of cursing humankind, not saving us. And if this is true, Yahweh, Moshe, and Dode are liars, as am I. The King James reads,
For as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse. For it is written, Cursed is every one that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them.
More clearly presented, albeit less aligned with the Greek text, the New Living Translation published.
But those who depend on the law to make them right with God are under his curse. For the scriptures say, Cursed is everyone who does not observe and obey all the commands that are written in God's book of the law.
If they are correct, God's word is God's curse. According to the most scholarly and respected resource, the Nestle Aland Greek New Testament, 27th edition, with McReynolds' English interlinear, the statement Paul wrote actually conveys.
For as many as from works of law they are under curse they are. It has been written for, not applicable, curse on all, who not stay in all the things having been written in the small book of the law to do them.
Based on the words Shaul selected, the following is a more complete and accurate depiction of his pronouncement. This is my own translation, one derived from the oldest surviving Greek manuscripts.
Because to the degree that...
Pack it up. Pack it up. Give Joe the Ruth material. Pack it up, and let's go on vacation.
Let's go on vacation, baby.
We can set this sucker to play, and Luminaries, it does itself.
It does itself. It is. There's nothing ever that is as powerful as this. You get to read it, so your eyes get to see it. You get to see the amplification, and you can even pause it and then copy and paste the word into your search engine and verify the translation. This reinforcement of not only reading it and having the book turn for you. See, it automatically turned the page. And have that book turn for you, or you can click on the next page and it'll turn the page automatically, and the voice will catch up to where you are. But to have then it read to you, and to have multiple voices in there, and one of them is a clone of my voice, but also the Christians that are reading the New Testament. We got Derek Falwell in there, and we got Billy Graham, and we're going to have some other guest voices that are going to be reading the Christian New Testament. And this is, a series of 5 books called Twistianity. It proves that the Christian New Testament is invalid, and that Jesus never existed, and that he's nothing but a crude counterfeit. And it proves it overwhelmingly, undeniably. But what a marvelous tool. And we've got one more wrinkle to add to it. And that is over on the first page. You're looking at 3 pages here. You're reading and you're focused on it. You notice that there was even a yellow highlight on the paragraph that was the AI voice was reading. So we're going to put on the left page there an oval, very much like what you're looking at either the two of us. But it's going to be an avatar that's lips are going to move as the avatar speaks these words. So you'll have the avatar speaking the words. You'll be able to hear the whole thing. And these are his quite literally talking books that are real page turners. It is a phenomenon. And it is, people have done certain aspects of some of these things previously. By the way, if you click on those 3 lines, if you look up there where the menorah is, and you click on the 3 lines next to the menorah up there, you'll see the table of contents disappear. So go to the far left. There you go.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you just get a little cleaner look when you do that. And when it has the avatar talking to you, and it talks to you, and it has multiple voices, and the presenter of this and my voice is the person who wrote all of it, did all of the research, wrote all of these books, all 38 of them. With his own translations and also validating it with other translations. It's going to be the most extraordinary tool ever. And it is always difficult when you have a lot of material, and we're talking about 30,000 pages, to use AI, because it loses focus. It can do 2 or 3 sentences at a time, and then it loses focus and it drops everything and becomes totally annoying. So to take 30,000 pages of material and to do this with them is something no one has ever attempted before. To integrate the written and spoken word together is something no one has ever attempted before. To integrate multiple voices into the AI is something no one has ever attempted before. And then we have a whole vocabulary that's important for people to know, particularly when we talk about YAHOWAH and what matters to him, that AIs don't have any clue how to pronounce, and it's very challenging. We have about 8,000 words that we're training the AI to pronounce. And my good friend Joe Page actually created an administrative tool that can use any open source AI text to speech tool to create these with all the discipline of the multiple voices, the clone voice of mine, and the proper pronunciation of words that these AIs have no concept over. The only thing we can't get it to do, and I don't think we'll ever be able to get it to do, but that's going to be okay, is that a human who is aware of what they're saying and that what they're saying is meaningful to them can read forward in every paragraph beyond where they are. And they will use inflection and pauses, and they will modulate their voice such that not only is it more interesting to hear, but the inflection is appropriate for every sentence, every word, and every thought. It's a very difficult thing to do, but you can train yourself to do that. There is no way to train an AI because AIs don't actually think. They're not actually intelligent. So they cannot reflect on the material and create a interaction with the material that is as credible as a human voice that is not just reading it, but knows it, cares about it, and is devoted to sharing it with other people. So these are the most important books ever written. They will completely destroy Christianity and prove emphatically that the whole myth of Christ is a lie. Do the same thing with Islam and prove that Allah is Satan and that Muhammad was the worst man who ever lived. And it does so using a method of logical comparison and reasoning that they are absolutely refutable because they're all being destroyed based upon their own words. So, my review of Islam based upon, there we go, 5 volumes. This is one of 5. They're 825 pages apiece. The only sources I cite and I document are the Islamic sources. I cover the entire Quran in 6 different translations, and one of them being my own. And I cover all the hadith, and I put the Quran in chronological order and into the context of Muhammad's life using the hadith so it can be understood as never before. And I did the same thing on Christianity with the New Testament, completely obliterated its credibility. And I didn't leave either the Muslim or the Christian without a God, because I introduced them to the real God based upon my own translations and a thorough understanding of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms beyond what anyone has ever even dared to conceive, with maybe in the range of 10,000 profound insights that were previously unheralded and yet all proven. So it's the most extraordinary work in the world, not only today, but, well, since the last of the prophets. And it's all free. And now there are talking books that are real page turners, and soon avatars. But that site is so rich with its timeline, with the blog, with the vlog, with the basics. Soon the family, where everybody in the family who is producing these kind of presentations now and talking about their own lives and their own understanding is so very rich with that kind of content. This is and a whole. We replicated, and I think we improved on both X and Facebook in terms of personal interpersonal communication on the site as well. A much better environment for posting and commenting and interacting with one another than exists in those places. And we removed the sewer from it. YAHOWAH.com is the most extraordinary website, I think, in the world. And it is very quickly becoming even more extraordinary. So we thank Joe for doing that. Leah played a real important role in it too, and even the music there. There's 120 some odd songs, and they'll grab you right there and won't let you go. They're powerful. It's a pretty amazing place.
I can just imagine Leia's pretty excited for an avatar of herself, so she doesn't have to be on camera for the Shabbat show, right? She can just have an avatar that sits in the chair over there.
Well, the problem now, of course, is that we have come with through Ruth with a whole new title, one that we did not expect, but the naked Nabi. And Nabi, so I'm not sure Leia's going to go for the naked Nabi, but that she is one of the 2 naked Nabis. And it is a most, I began this 25 years ago. And when I devoted my life to doing what God had asked me to do, the one thing I never did is I never asked God for a sign. I thought it was not just irresponsible. I thought it would have been embarrassing and condescending for me to say, God, you're talking to me, you want me to do this. I need a sign that it's really you. It never dawned on me to ask for a sign. And now we're 25 years into this, and we work together marvelously. And there's been, 10,000 profound insights that no one has ever perceived about God before. And Yahweh lays on all manner of signs. Never asked for them. But this trip through Ruth was just extraordinary. You could not have imagined a more convincing sign. So
especially to tell her, go ask Ruth. I mean, her whole first conversation started with Yahweh, and if you're real, and she was mad. She was mad.
Oh yeah, she'd been to the rabbis. They put their hand up her dress. She had been to the yogis and the great spiritual leaders in India and spent time with the leaders of them. She had run NGOs in Haiti and knew all of the witch doctors and voodoo doctors. She had read the quote unquote Bible from cover to cover and said, "Good God, this is a book at conflict with itself. What in the world is going on here?" And so she's just frustrated. Says, I know there's a God, but obviously I'm not going to find this God in religion. So since you're there, you tell me where to find you. And he said, go ask Ruth. Turns out she is Ruth.
Wow.
Yep. And it's the most amazing story as it fills in from there. So I don't think I've ever enjoyed doing something more. I shared what is pretty sensuous. You think it's not. You think it's pretty tame. But when you're talking about God and you're speaking for God, to talk about scenes that are sexually charged scenes, then you are cautious. And so I said, I'm going to write this as exactly where the words lead. I'm going to write this because I was there and I remember what happened. I'm going to write this because I relived every aspect of every nuance of this. I've relived. So I'm going to write it as it really is, and I'm going to talk about it as it really is, and then I'm going to send it to an inner core of team members, and I'm going to say, I wrote it as real as it gets. Does this need to be toned down before it's released? And the interesting thing is that one of the women I sent it to was Mariah. And her comments were so damn good. I think I need to include her comments in it. But powerful. Said, don't you dare change a word. This is just exactly as it needs to be. This is who we need to understand we are and how our relationship is really supposed to work. And to think of the trust that was involved in all of this and being completely exposed like that. Naked Nabi, you're thinking, all right, so everybody's mind goes to a person who is naked, who is sitting there preaching, and of course the Nabis don't preach. But what it means is exposed, completely and totally exposed, and that's the core of the story of Ruth and Boaz. They are totally and completely exposed to one another, to their community, to God, to the world today. And that's the brilliance of it.
Yeah, I am 100% sure that Yahweh is okay with sex, the idea of sex, talking about sex, having sex. It's all in Towrah. Okay, I mean, we go from incest to having kids with your dead wife's husband, or your so that they can continue the family line. Adam and Chawah are naked in the garden. I mean, I'm pretty sure that he's
Dode
okay
is
with
bringing
it.
the Aaron of the Beret, what's called the Ark of the Covenant, into Jerusalem, and he's bare ass naked from the ephod down, and and that story is so talk about a sign. That story is the kind of the ultimate sign, even for the Ruth story. They tie it right into together because he at the end when his belly aching wife says, you're not significant with God, with Yahweh. And he says, well, we'll go ask the Amma whether or not I'm significant. And Ruth is
Right.
the one who says, I am the Amma, and I'm going to deliver the kinsman redeemer. And oh, by the way, pal, you are the kinsman redeemer.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just, and what we learned about what redeemer is, what Amma is. You know, a redeemer, it's a very special form of salvation. The association of kin is not actually in the word. Gaal
Right.
does not mean kinsman redeemer in the sense that we've been accustomed to saying. There's no association with kin in the word. But the redeemer is very special in Gaal. It's a savior, a deliverer, and a redeemer who is focused on liberating people from the control of others and from their own malfeasance, who is willing to pay the price. The emphasis on the redeemer is that he pays the price. He makes the sacrifice. He endures the cost. And so a redeemer is a very, very special dude.
And not an insignificant price either. That's
no.
the important
You're looking at the
connotation of it,
price
yes.
that Noah paid when he saved his family. Built 40 years constructing that Towrah. The price that Moshe paid when he went back to liberate his people, where it was so miserable, he said, God, you might as well just kill me. It's the price that Dode ultimately paid when he fulfilled Pesach and allowed the Romans to crucify him, and then his soul went into Sheol to remove his people's guilt so that they could join him as part of Yahweh's family. It's the price that I will pay when I'm sacrificed as the Adam of Perah. It is a tremendous, tremendous price. In fact, Boaz in the 4th chapter it's brilliant. This 4th chapter is just so much fun. Boaz is a bright boy, and he has this whole thing wired. And it turns out that Boaz is the one that taught Dode to write. Now I have proof of it. And he's saying, all right, any one of you think that you want to be a redeemer? You think that you can play that role? You think you're capable of paying that price? Step right up. I want you right now to step up if you think you can pay the price and act the role of a redeemer, because it's a tough one. And that's why there have been so few of them. But it's just and by the way, the reason that kinsman is associated with it is because everybody I mentioned there knew the people that they were redeeming. No one will make that kind of sacrifice for those they don't know. Noah saved his own family. Moshe saved his people. Dode saved Israel. I'll save the covenant family. Everybody knows. You don't make that level of sacrifice unless you know who you're protecting. You would do that for your daughter, for your son, maybe for a best friend, but you're not doing it for somebody a half a world away that you don't know.
Right.
That's where kinsman came in. Otherwise, it would have no association with kinsman whatsoever. And then the other issue is that in this story, Ruth that is acknowledging that she is a Nakara, that she is an observant foreigner, but not before she twice acknowledges that Boaz is the Nakar, the observant foreigner. But he's born and raised in Yehuda. You can't be more unforeign than he. And, in the end, it's a Nakar, observant foreigner, that saves Israel, saves the world. But in this story, Ruth is a Moabite. And yet she now is a Yehud. And so you get down to what is the Moabite? Well, it's the incestuous product of Lot, who was Abraham's nephew. What is an Edomite? It's descendants of the twin brother of Jacob, all one family. And so you come to the realization that it's all a naming convention. Israel and Yehud is a naming convention. It's a very important naming convention, but that's what it is. And those that are perceived as outside of it can be closer than anyone who perceives themselves to be inside of it. And those who are banking everything on their religion and on their ethnicity, their DNA, are the ones who are deceiving themselves. They don't understand the naming convention or why God used it.
Right.
Its story is just so revealing, speaking of the naked Nabi.
Right. Well, it was interesting in 3 as well, that all 3 words that pertain to, lack of a better word, sexual activity, bo, yada, and shikar, were all, used bam, bam, bam right there on the threshing floor scene.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean,
oh, yes. Oh, no,
somebody was trying to get a point across.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she is taking a bathing, then she's rubbing her entire body with oil and perfumes, and she's wearing the most statuesque apparel that she owns, and she is going to visit a man who is asleep in a public place, and the first thing she is going to do is uncover him from the waist to the toes. And then she's going to lay beside him, and she didn't oil up her body to lay beside him with the oils all covered. It was a sexual encounter. What's so amazing is that she did this at the advice of her mother-in-law, who was from Bethlehem. And second, that had it not worked out, had Boaz said, I've got so many young women, I don't need another young woman in my life, and you're half my age, and and you're from another community, and I just don't need this. She would not have lived through the day. In that culture, she'd have been dead. So she did either the boldest thing in the history of women, or she knew exactly what was going to happen. And then, you're in a highly charged sexual situation, and these two are talking prophecies that are transformative for the world in the middle of that. Now, can you imagine having your wits, most beautiful woman probably in the world at the time, is all oiled up. She's standing, she's laying down right beside you, and you're naked. And rather than let's do this, baby, you're having a conversation with her that is prophetic of the way the world will be and how the world will be, the problems of the world will be resolved. And you're laying them all out, saying who, when, where, how the world is going to be reconciled back unto God.
Right.
That's why they're the naked Nabi. It's just astonishing. It's such a good story. My favorite so far. I've never encountered.
Sure.
I've been writing. I have 3 volumes of Coming Home that are all essentially completed. I've got some superscript work to do in a couple of them. We've got some more edit to enter into them, and I've still got the 4th chapter of Ruth to complete. But it'll be about 2,000 pages when it's all done, and all 3 volumes will be published at the same time. And it has all been to get to this point, to tell the story of Ruth, which it's obvious it was written by Boaz. He's telling the story of Ruth.
It has to be, because to have the details it has, and this is not a shared story, you know what I'm saying? And there's only 2 people there on the threshing floor. So,
Yes.
and, it's absolutely has to be. And
Yeah,
and
Boaz telling us.
interestingly enough, written by Boaz as named Ruth, right? I mean, it's one of the few books in the Torah, Prophets, and Psalms that has a female name in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yes, one of only 2. And the other one is trash.
And I mean, Yah wrote the book of Yah. Jeremiah wrote, and so Boaz, and he writes Ruth.
We find from Ethan Hajraki that I wrote the Mashal to help raise Dode and Solomon, and to share with them the importance of a relationship, mother, father, and son. And yet I don't claim any of them, but at one point they're all claimed for me. The word picture that transformed our situation was the 31st Mashal, which has the Amma trying to save Dode from himself right after the Bathsheba affair. And it's also written by her husband, clearly written by her husband. So there are these examples. You read the Mashal, and it's a mother and father caring for their son. Guess who the father was? Guess who the mother was? Guess who the son is? So yeah, there are interesting examples of that, and I can tell you, Boaz can turn a phrase. He is the master of the innuendo. He is that man can turn a phrase.
What you're saying is we somehow just got lucky that Ruth is only 4 chapters long. That it wasn't the Great Ruth Scroll.
It wasn't the Great Ruth Scroll. Yes. Yeah, I've got him.
That Schroeder likes to write.
He does. But the difference is, they say, I wrote you a long letter. If I'd had more time, I'd written you a short letter. That one, he had lots of time.
Yeah.
He had lots of time to write that letter. And he had lots of time to write the Mashal. And these books that we now have, the 38 of them, they're 30,000 pages. We didn't have that much time. Had to get it done. And they're long for a reason. And, when I hear things in my ear when I'm listening to these page-turning talking books, that I'd say, I would not say that that way now. And then, but I'm absolutely convinced that, yes, right, we leave it. And it's not for any other reason that you can't start people off where we are now. You come to this point. You don't start at this point. Right. And so I think the way the books are currently written is we're going to leave them that way. And you continue to read, you continue to learn, you build a foundation, then you can eventually grow to where we are.
I tell everybody the same thing with our social media. We have doing the shorts or doing even the your earlier programs. Hey, we need to go back and change to the new intro, or we need to put the old outro. And it's like, no, we want to be able to see the progression in our work as we go.
Right. Yeah, look at for example, the Will, for example, as he's doing his program. The first one wasn't very good. Second one, whoa, what a difference! And he is growing in his ability to deliver this. And everyone that I watch, I'm watching the progression. I think that Mariah and her husband Russell had a really good first go, and yet there's some mistakes that they were unaware of in terms of camera placement vis-a-vis. They did a mic, in the family hour. And Mike's constantly looking like this. They did a mic. They'll figure that out. And
right.
And the progression is good.
Yeah.
I like the growth that Mike has on the shows that he has. I love the growth on Call Your Next Witness and how much better those shows have gotten over time. The Y2Z group, each episode is better than the last. This is the kind of thing you want to see.
Yeah, that's what Yah's looking for. That's the whole point.
Yes.
It's the growth.
Leah, last night we were listening to some of Leah's earlier songs, and she says, "Oh my God, I can't even handle that." This, and I'm saying, no, that's what you want to see is the progression.
Yes.
You don't want to avoid those songs. You want to have the progression. When I'm listening to that analysis, that the logic of Galatians as we went to that chapter. Are there things that I could say now that are beyond even the thoughts that I expressed then? Sure. But that is the most rational evaluation of that material ever written. And it's absolutely well beyond anything that needs to be done. I think that we leave it. Let's do one more here, and then we'll.
I have one thing I want to talk about, though, before we
please.
go. Okay. that there was some talk, and we're talking about avatars, and we're not really locked in anything about avatars or whatever. And there was a lot of chat when it was brought up on the last show, on the Luminary show, in the YouTube chat on Red about who's going to be which avatar and whatever, you know, how are they going to look or whatever. And I'm like, we're not locked into people, right? We can have Wookiee and Asher and Kara read these to us, you know, or we can have a bull, a ram, and a goat read these to us, right? I mean, there's no reason that they have to be has to look like you, right? Or what do you think?
I think that from a credibility point of view, and that's what we're promoting is credibility. That the parts that are in my voice, it should be an avatar of me. I am obviously like the variety. And if for variety, occasionally we were to sneak in a bull, and then we were occasionally, and that could cover my part, and that we occasionally, like we're doing the Mizmor with Dode, and we sneak in a ram to do that part, I think that would be hilarious. So I have no problem with that at all. I think we're actually better off without avatars on the things from Islam and Christianity. Let the voices do the trick. And
right
now, on terms of the bold for all of it, then we could have some fun with the bold. We got to be really careful because you're reading the very word of God, and you don't want to. Don't want to push it too far. But you could have a if it's Torah, you could have a Moses avatar. Read the Torah. You could have a Yada Yah avatar read Yada Yah. So, and we've got some decent avatars of these people already. So that's a possibility. Listen. We introduced this program with the Talking Wookiee. We introduced the basic programs with the Talking Wookiee. So I've enjoyed, and John Voight did those things. I love the Talking Wookiee, and I think it's really fun. And where we poke fun and have fun, I think is important. But this is seriously credible. It's credibility is our primary tool, and so I think we have to be a little bit careful. So I think it will be a Talking me for it. Whether or not we do Indiana Jones me with the hat that they've had fun with.
I was going to say it can't even be the same shirt.
Me and the Hawaiian shirts are this new series is kind of is an interesting look, and you'd love to see variety because that's part of the
Joe
genius.
Can randomize that.
Yeah, that's part of the
Change
genius.
on you.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the genius of what Joe has created here. And his many voices, it keeps it interesting, and so I think that the avatar absolutely ought to change. But I think for credibility's sake, the parts that I'm sharing should be me. But I'm open to other suggestions.
Okay. Where did we? Let's see.
I think what so many people would do is put me with a baseball cap backwards.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
that
we'll
one
do
not
one
so
more.
much. There we go. Oh.
Yeah, this is the thing I was talking about, that the bipartisan bill for affordable housing, Trump won't sign. So doesn't really care that people don't have affordable housing, doesn't care that Congress and the Senate joined together in a bipartisan bill. He's not going to sign it. It's blackmail. You want that signed, then you sign his Save America Act, and a Save America Act means that there's never going to be an election again in America that's going to matter. He gets to decide how the election takes place and who gets to count the votes. Who gets to vote, how they get to vote, and who counts the votes is the Save America Act.
My whole thing on this is I think he yawns in the middle of it. He is just completely uninterested in anything that doesn't have to do with him.
Yeah, you can.
What are your plans for the housing bill, Mr. President?
I don't know. I think it's so unimportant by compared to the Save America Act. I think the Save America elections.
I mean,
I think he does.
Talk about narcissist. I mean, just absolutely. Oh.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about this. I just say, you're talking about the billions of cells in your body, and that every minute there's like 2 million cells that are changing and being replaced, and this notion that you're going to have bodily resurrection, or that there was a bodily resurrection, is so utterly stupid. It has no concept of physiology, and when you die, the thing that you want is to have your soul separated from the body, because the body is the great limiting factor. And what they're also talking about here is that everybody is programmed to die. Every cell in the body is actually programmed with a drop dead date, and so we have been programmed to die. And you might say, well, why would we be programmed to die? And it's because God was exposed to created man to live, and man was despicable, and so he reprogrammed man to say your maximum life is 120 days. You'll live shorter than that, but that's the actual max. He reprogrammed our DNA specifically for that. And so we're programmed to die, because if we were to continue to live for long periods of times, we would be intolerably evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There'd be a lot more of us too.
Yeah, and the more there are of us, the worse we are. This is kind of clever. This is Mark Twain, and I think everything but one line is actually quite good. You know, age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. It's one that I've bought into for a long time. Particularly being a guy that's 6,000 years old, at the very least, begins to be important for me. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. Boy, ain't that the truth. Kindness is the language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. The fear of death follows from the fear of life. If you're not afraid of life, you're not going to fear death. Good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. I don't buy the sleepy conscience, but good friends and good books. This is a good life. And then forgiveness is the fragrance that the violent sheds on the heel of those that have crushed it. Yeah, don't forget. Forgiveness is unbelievably stupid, and it's part of the myth of Christianity, and it's such hypocrisy of Christianity, because they blame Jews for a crime they didn't commit and have held them accountable unforgivingly for the crime they didn't commit for 2,000 years. So, no. There's one, I don't know if we'll come to it or not, but I'll just speak of it. There's a Tucker Carlson went into a rant saying that that Moshe went up the Mount Towrah for the second time, and on the second attempt, he told God to kill him, and therefore was that anti-Semitism. And then there's a guy that rebuts him and says, "Well, no, dummy." That actually happened after they left Mount Towrah. They were 3 days out of Mount Towrah, as a matter of fact, at that position. And so, I guess this is the one. They were 3 days out of Mount Towrah at that point. And then he wants to redefine what Moshe said, as if Moshe was not complaining against Jews. You know, he says, no, Moshe was showing his deep compassion for Jews. And he took it completely out of context, because in context, what it says is that the Jews were so obnoxious, so demeaning. This is in the 11th chapter of Devarim, not of Devarim, of Bamidbar, of Numbers. And in the 11th chapter, it says that Jews were so obnoxious that God couldn't stand them anymore, that his righteous indignation caused him to literally ignite and consume everything surrounding the encampment. So God was just utterly disgusted. And the point where God is utterly disgusted because they're being so obnoxious, the Jews are, that they're not Jews at that point. They're Israelites, they're the children of Israel. And they won't become Jews for 3,400 years after that point. So with them being little snots, and they're being snots the entire way and never recovering from being snots and obnoxious, Moshe comes to Yahweh and says, I can't bear this. This is an impossible job that you've given me. And you must obviously hate me to have given me this job and put me in this position. And you have me as a nursemaid to these people. They're not mine. What are you doing to me on this? If you had any compassion for me, you'd just kill me. And so it's Moshe giving up. The children of Israel had become so obnoxious, they were impossible to lead. No one could do it. He knew the job was impossible. And he told God, I just want you to kill me. It's more merciful you kill me than me having to endure these people any longer. Mm-hmm. And so in this case, both of them were dead wrong. To understand the Torah is to understand that the Torah is the story of everyone associated in this story. Everyone in that story was a snot, except Chinook wasn't. Adam was, Chawah was, Cain was, Chinook wasn't. Noach wasn't. Medod and Eldod were not. Amram and Jochebed, Moshe's parents, were not. But Moshe was at times. There's just very few people that are not presented as schnots, as really obnoxious. I mean, the whole group of the spies, what a terrible thing. The meltdown at the waters of Meribah, having a tizzy fit even before crossing the Gulf of Aqaba, getting to the other side, and the first thing you do is build a golden calf. Constantly challenge Moshe and saying that they were threatening to kill Moshe. It's a depiction of a people that were antagonistic towards God and antagonistic towards Moshe. And the theme never changes. That is the theme. That is the only thing. And that even those before, with Abraham and Sarah and Lot and Yishak, Jacob, Rebecca, Rachel, they're all despicable. The 12 children of the born to them are all despicable. It's you need to know that's the story, and the story is people are horrible, and yet there's only this reoccurring theme where God sends in a fixer, and that fixer doesn't have any rebellion associated with him. Mm-hmm. You never see a bad angle on Chinook, on Noach. You look at the story of Boaz after the Towrah. It's just all positive. And same as with Ethan Hajraki. It's all the way through. So you got one guy that's the fixer, and he doesn't seem to do stupid stuff, because maybe that if he did stupid stuff, that they wouldn't fix the stupid stuff that he was sent to fix. But everybody else is just obnoxious towards God. Terrible things he did. Comes out well in the end, but boy, it was a rough go getting there.
Yeah.
So it's just a gross misunderstanding. As a Christian, Tucker's just a nincompoop when it comes to this stuff. He's got no clue what the book says or who God is or any of that. He just has hate in his heart for Jews, as like most Christians. He's just a demon-possessed one that's bribed by Muslims. So he's a special kind of idiot. But,
it's this whole idea, a leader who cares so much he can't bear to carry it alone. I don't even understand that. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. As a leader, you are always alone. That's the point.
You always are.
You know?
Yeah. Yes, you always are. And you know, it's like Boaz when he has the meeting outside of the gates, and he has already set this up. The only one person that had a potential to be able to pay the price to redeem Ruth, who he's already consummated the relationship with. So he's in a position where he's pretty insistent it's going to turn out his way, and he's the one that the first use of the cohortative and the imperative on the same verb, and he repeats it over and over again. You know, my will is for you to capitulate to my will. You can have your free will so long as your free will aligns with what I want to. So we're making it clear, and you're familiar with the concept of Gaal, Redeemer, and that the Redeemer pays the price. Is any of you willing to step up and pay this price? And he knew that he was, and he knew that nobody else was. And so he said, I just want it real clear that if any of you think that you can step up and you can act in the role of a redeemer and you can pay the price, then you step up right now. That'd be fine if you think you can. But I want to hear it from you right now if you think you can step up and pay this price. No belly aching later.
Right.
And so that's the deal. And yeah, it's true that even the greatest king of the two of Israel, David and Solomon, they both buckled under the pressure. Solomon didn't recover, David did. But it's Moshe collapsed under the pressure.
That's
Abraham collapsed under the pressure, and he didn't have any pressure on him, and he still collapsed. It's Jacob collapsed, and he didn't have any pressure on him either. It's a tough damn job. Tough. Very few people. That's why Boaz said, if you think you got it in you, man up right now. But know the price you're going to pay. It's the worst job in the world to be vulnerable like that and exposed like that. It's everybody thinks that is just glorious, and they want to esteem to it, and until they know what the burden of it. And there are people that are made for it, and they'll say, "Yep, no, I'll do that." But in the things that I'm doing in this life, I don't recall that Yahweh ever asked.
Yeah.
I think it was just all the way assumed all the way through. We've got a job to do. We've done it before. We're going to get this job done. And every time you're confronted with a new mission, an addition to the mission, it's never, would you mind doing this while you're here? What about dying as the Adamah Parah is going to be really a gruesome spectacle, going to be the worst slaughter in human history. You mind just stepping up for that? There's never a request. It's we've done this before. This is what we do, and you're committed to doing it. So we can dispense with the pleasantries here. This is what we're going to do, and you're delighted to be able to do it. But there are horses for courses.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole point of continuing to translate, because you're constantly growing into the role. Yeah, I know it's coming up. Yeah, I know I'm going to be ready for it. Yeah, but then it's that, oh no, I really am going to be ready for. Oh wow, okay, I got this too. Yeah, okay.
Or if you're coming along with us and you are exposed to something as brilliant as Ruth, or that 31st Mashal, or the prophecy of the two luminaries, and you're seeing it all materialize. Somewhere along or to have the Torah come alive as it's prophetic for what we're doing right now, what we battle against and what we're trying to achieve, it's got to be extremely reassuring to be part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to put spoiler alerts on some of the books. Hey, if you're reading ahead, don't read here yet, because you're not ready for it.
You need to grow. You need to grow to this point so that you have the base to appreciate it. Neither of these guys do. That's why they get it wrong.
Yeah.
And you don't start out that way. I mean, there are examples where Ethan Hajraki, he started out that way because he was brought in as a full adult. But for the most part, God lets you grow into each life and earn your place and this is part of it, is that you build a foundation of knowledge. You go about learning and thinking, and then developing comprehension, understanding, insights, and then you begin to share them and you build upon that. And it's a whole ongoing process. And you don't do it for money.
No, there's no money.
No, there's no money in it. You don't do it for money. You don't do it for fame, because all of the attention is critical.
Mm-hmm.
You do it because it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because God wants you to do it. And, with all of the numbskulls that he's had to endure over time, he's entitled occasionally just to have somebody say, sure, let's go ahead with that. And then, it's always with him, it's not like he is assuming, he is assuming that we're going to do it. But all along, he's complimentary. All along, he's saying, this is really special. I'm so very happy with this relationship. This is something that I'm going to reward. It's a glorious situation here. And so he's constantly doing that. And when you don't ask him for signs, you're lavished with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're not insulting him, and you're letting him do it his way. And then if you're saying, you don't demand knowledge, you work at it, then you find all of these marvelous insights that were there that no one has ever seen, and were put there knowing that you would find it. And he's giggling as nobody's business when you finally find it and say, it took you long enough. Pretty cool,
right.
Huh? How'd you like the way that one worked out? I love it. It's marvelous fun. And he has chosen to know as little about how it all plays out as is possible, up to the point of assuring us that it all plays out. So we're assured that it all plays out because we know exactly what ultimately transpires. But all of the little nuances each day that get us there, he avoids knowing until they materialize, or the relationship wouldn't be any fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's super cool. All right, my friend, we've done our 2 hours plus, and thank you. I know that you were you're out looking for air conditioning equipment. You're back. You're going to keep your wife and yourself and your dogs cool. That's a good thing to do. I understand you're in a heat wave. We don't know if there's such things here, but I'm glad you're there and able to take care of that. And you're able to join us for the vlog on the blog. And thank you. Thank you, Rich. We'll look forward to seeing you later today with another episode of Luminaries in the Basic Series. Thanks so much. Good day.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch Yah on our next podcast.